Right, thanks everybody. I just wanted to explain a little bit about obviously the Sheffield Innovation Programme. Some of you on the meeting here will know about it, some won't. So hopefully it'll be something new. So some general points about SIP, but also some specifics about some of the work that we are doing in Sports Engineering Research Group as well. So firstly, SIP's in its actually second round of 3-year phases. So it's already had a previous 3 years, and we're in the middle really of another 3-year run of it. So it's European Union funded from the ERDF, part of structural funds received through the region. It's matched with some of the Hallam's own HIFE money, Higher Education Innovation Fund, to make the full complement. And it's available to any business, eligible business within what is known as the city region, which obviously is the obvious bit around Sheffield, Doncaster, Barnsley around there, but does stretch across to Bassetlaw, Bolsover and down into Chesterfield and the Derbyshire Dales. So it has a fairly broad reach around the region. The reason I obviously put leading locally in there was because it ties in with obviously one of the main pillars of the university, which is leading locally, engaging globally. So this is part of our role and responsibility, I guess, for engaging and supporting business growth within the region. It states that our place at the heart of the city and region is fundamental to what we do, and I think that's true in many ways, and SIP is a manifestation of that, offering up opportunity for staff to effectively exploit their expertise and knowledge and the facilities we've got for supporting innovation and business growth in the region. It also allows us to not only do income generated work where we can obviously exploit our research knowledge and the things we do, but also for the benefits of students as well. Some of the relationships we build through these companies we work with in the region are places where students end up taking placements to as well. So there's a mutual benefit that can go on with these projects. There is a website available if anybody wants to go on and have a look at it. I haven't got the URL there, but it's simply sip.ac.uk. You'll see some links later on anyway, so some other pages on there, so you'll be able to get to it. But there's some useful information on there to find out a bit more about what it is and what it does specifically. There are 3 main ways of engaging in the project, really, for staff. And one is initially, I guess, is an obvious one, is through what they call either profile raising awareness events or network events. So we've done a number of these over the last 1.5 years and the previous 3 years. As an example there of some of the things that we've done in sports engineering, but I've put on there also some done by other groups as well within SPARC, particularly obviously the sport breakfast event and the employee wellbeing one, in addition to the ones that we've run previously. Currently, they're all running online as webinars in terms of network events, but the hope is to transition back towards face-to-face, in-person events sometime next year. The events actually are one of the easiest ways to start to engage with the people you might be interested in, and that's all actually taken care of in terms of organisational strength for you by a central person in the SIP team based in Riz, and that's Chelsea Bakewell. So they do a lot of the organisation for you in terms of invitations, looking for people to send an invite to and setting it up on the day. So it couldn't really be easier for people to engage with this. We've just basically are able to spend time preparing the material and then delivering it, all of which we can claim and obviously cover our costs with. The other format is in workshops. These are typically 12 hours of contact time is the stipulation to deliver a workshop. We've done them previously over 2 days, so 2 full days, or a day consecutively, or they can be done weeks apart, or however you want really to make your workshop work. So again, I've highlighted a few that have been carried out previously in the past by us, but also some of the other groups as well. In terms of SPARC, have done one on chatbots, and what is now Sport and Human Performance with Keith Davies ran a very well attended skill acquisition workshop, all supported and funded by the SIP program. So I mentioned that we can, you have to actually commit to doing 12 hours. Can be challenging getting participants to engage in that amount of time, but at the moment, because we can't do face-to-face, there is an acceptance to do a blended version. You can start online, you can go to face-to-face. Workshops actually are paused until hopefully next year anyway. We've been mostly delivering the network events through and profile raising events through webinars. Again, Chelsea supports the organisation and the strain of that within the SIP team in RIS. And also there's a very generous allowance of time that is quite nominal in many ways, actually. There's no reason why you can't go over it, depending on what you're doing. But you are able to allocate a reasonable amount of time, 20 days nominally, to actually prepare and deliver that, all again, which is covered by SIP. The third one, and the one we mainly engage with, as in most probably staff do, is around the small scale R&D or research knowledge transfer projects. So over the years, we've done quite a few projects with those organisations you see there noted on that slide. You nominally, again, get up to 9 days to do a piece of work with that particular organisation. The eligibility aspect is that they have to be, 1, an SME, and 2, a registered business. So they don't all have to necessarily be a standard kind of trading type company. They can be community interest companies, charities. As long as they are sometimes registered, they are eligible. So there's quite a wide remit in which you can engage with businesses. Obviously, lots of sports organisations are classed as businesses, so they come within the remit of this. Also, sole traders are eligible as well, even though they're not necessarily registered companies, but they just have to provide some evidence of trading. We also do work with startups as well, who aren't really trading yet, but are pretty much early, let's say, registered. If you want more than 9 days, you simply have to write a short business case, which is then submitted for approval. We've done projects for upwards of 20 days on some of our projects, so they can be quite generous, and we haven't yet had a business case turned down. So they generally, if you've got good reason to go beyond the standard 9 days, you are normally supported by that. Often you have to justify, or the business case presents what the business gets for that extra time. Obviously, that's pretty easy, but actually what we might get in return in terms of potential down the line benefit, whether that's income or whether that's a wider engagement in terms of research and teaching. So other than the income, which is obviously for some of us who are predominantly based in the old research centres, which are now groups, but we still have very much driven by income targets. The income is something that we focus upon, but for others it may not be quite that case. So thinking of why you might engage with this, I think for me it's about also having an impact of sharing what we do externally to our local region, and the idea of trying to encourage and build our own companies to grow, and the sense of building our own, for me, is very important. And I think that's something we have an ability to have some impact on with some organisations that we can identify that we've got some ability to build a relationship with. And also, as I said before, it opens doors for potentially student placements and CPD work, and even volunteering as well. So there are useful outcomes from going to the efforts of engaging with the SIP programme. I'll just highlight a few projects that we've been involved with in sports engineering over the years now, just to give you an insight of some of the things we do. One of the earlier projects we did was a Goalball Mask for Golfix Sport. So this is a redesign of a mask that they previously had, which was fallible to people cheating because they could see if they moved it or slightly see out of the bottom of the mask, so there was a degree of cheating going on. So John Hart worked on this project and effectively created a new design with a new fitted polymer foam that removed that aspect of cheating. So that was a very successful design project that we undertook there for Golfix. A more recent one was with a physiotherapy company called More Rehab, which some of you may be aware of. They have a rehab device called a functional electronic stimulation exercise bike, obviously for rehabilitation, for stimulating muscles, people who've got muscle damage. It's a way of trying to engage the patients to stick with the program. We looked at the idea of a, not virtual reality, but some means of going on a journey visually. So we connected a point of view cycling experience to the device through the work of Ben Heller and Leon Foster to basically make that engaging. So this is currently with them and being tested still, and to see what we can do with it in the future. So that actually was an interesting project in the physiotherapy world. A non-sport, but a play-related one, which is an interesting application of finite element work in terms of an engineering application, was looking at whether you could design and get a particular resonance out of something called a tuning stone. So there's something, a big block of granite, which you can rub when it's wet, and it will resonate at a particular frequency and creates a very interesting and pleasant tone and a feel, and it's used in some sensory gardens for children with particular special needs. They were curious as to whether that could be tuned by design. So some work was done by John Hart there, looking at geometric material properties and geometric form to see how we might be able to do that. A more biomechanical focused project, which Marcus was involved with Alice Bullis mostly, was around working with a pro golf coach nearby, Marcus Bell, who has a company called Golf Kinetics, but he also works very closely with Zen, looking at analysis of some particular foot immobility conditions and the impact on the golf swing. It's very detailed. Actually quite a heavy project this was in the end in terms of the analysis, because of the number of markers that we used. But actually the output from this revealed some very interesting findings for Marcus that confirmed, I suppose, some of his thoughts about the effects of these foot ankle immobilities or resistance on the golf swing, which has subsequently enabled him to create a prototype product which can help train people with those conditions. And a subsequent project we're engaged on is looking at refining and improving the design of that product. This is one that we did with Rounders England. Andy Hext created a tool which is a match game analysis tool, really. So a very nice user interface for improving the ability for data collection and metrics within the field of rounders. I'm moving swiftly on because of conscious of time. One other one which I think is interesting is an early project we did with a company called Exio, a startup, 2 young engineers coming out of University of Sheffield, a design related project looking to interact with the users, end users. Didn't really go anywhere after that, other than several attempts to get NHIR grant grants for that project, which didn't go anywhere. But since then, the company has put in an Innovate UK grant, which has been in partnership with us, with Ben Heller, in fact, which has resulted in an award of that grant. So we've now got a project, or Ben's delivering a project with them, a substantial one really, which has all come from a relationship that was built through an early project in SIP. So there's a number of projects there I've just been through. This slide is the last one really around showing not just our projects, but I pulled it from the records I've got access to, showing obviously the projects that are going on across SPARC in terms of projects that we're delivering within SERG, but obviously some in sports industries as well that Rich Moore is leading on. One that Mayor is looking at with a nutrition company, and a couple within physical activity and wellness. So there is engagement across SIP, across SPARC. The last thing I would say is they're quite heavily underspent as well. So there's lots of money available for people who aren't involved to get involved, and see if you can engage with your people out there in your networks, and use SIP for the means of doing that. And it's very easy to engage with it. Lots of the pain is taken away from you. You don't have to apply for grants really, you just get on and do it as long as you've got an eligible company. And that's it really. Thank you very much for listening. Anybody needs to get in touch with me. If you want some questions or details, please do. There are others in the group in SPARC who are probably equally as familiar, and that's things like people like Rich Moore, Tim Vernon, in their particular areas also very familiar with the way SIP works. Thank you.
Great stuff. Thanks so much, David. Really nice overview of the SIP program. It's obviously a really great way of engaging with local SMEs and building relationships, translating knowledge into practice as well. Do you have any questions from the floor at all? Great stuff. I think. Oh, there we go, Jeff.
So one. Dave, thanks for that. I know we've chatted a few times about these. What would you recommend in terms of how well developed the ideas are before getting in touch with yourself or making the first move?
Well, I guess it doesn't have to be developed at all, even if you've got the gem of an idea. And it depends what it is. It could be just an event. I know, for example, Sarah Churchill had a conversation with me about how she might engage with SIP, and it seemed the initial way was to just try and find out who's out there who might be interested in the things I would like to share and use my expertise in. So putting on a webinar or a network profile raising awareness event seemed to be the obvious thing, is to put something out there, see what response you get, and hopefully you do get some response, and you begin to build an engagement with your community there from that really. And that's the initial way that, and we still do it as well. Running those events is a way of finding out who's interested, sharing quite effectively some focused sort of thematic knowledge, and then you can work on from that, from the responses you get from the businesses who are attending, whether they're interested in a project, and also from that you can get an appetite as well as whether there's material there, enough demand, I guess, for running a workshop as well. So at any stage really, any idea, get in touch. It doesn't have to be particularly well formed, because an idea is an idea, isn't it, to build on really.
No, that's great. I think I'll get in touch with you back channel, Dave. I think trying to capture this in the process and those case examples on in the first point, the SharePoint site, the SPARC SharePoint site would be great. I think that'd be really good to have a folder on there, David.
Okay.
That's excellent. Thanks for that.
Great stuff. Any other final questions for David? Great. I think you're off the hook, David. So just a quick one, just to thank all of our speakers this afternoon. Done a great job. Obviously, this is our last seminar before we can all go and have a nice relaxing break for Christmas and New Year. I think it's obviously well deserved this year for sure. We will pick up seminar series in January on the 18th. We've got some talks from Rich Moore, Lee Edmondson, and Robbie Miller. So yeah, have a good break, everybody, and we'll see you in the new year. Okay.
Thanks, Marcus.
Thanks, Marcus.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, guys.